Well, ladies and gents, at the end of the day, it looks like the 2021 Red Sox couldn't prove us wrong. How we doing, everybody? This is Bobby Gaines, and here to talk about a little Red Sox baseball for the last time in 2021. And in case you couldn't tell from either my reaction videos or different things during the season, I really just didn't care. And it's not that I didn't care from the beginning, because I actually really liked this team from April to June because they were putting things together. A lot of people forget, but Nick Pivetta and Garrett Richards were actually really good pitchers for a couple months, and then of course the whole thing with the gripping stuff came out, and I guess that's a big reason why. But Eduardo Rodriguez was never really that great. Evaldi was probably their best pitcher for most of the season, and the reason I say all this is because the team wasn't that bad. Like actually, I thought they had a chance to go far, and I know they did go far. They made it to Game 6 of the ALCS. So why do I feel disappointed? Well, it's kind of the same thing that I heard other people saying, the whole, oh, if you told me in the beginning of the year that the Red Sox would make the ALCS, you'd be happy with that. It's like, well, yeah, in a vacuum, but, how do they get there? See, to me, it's not enough to just say, oh, they got this far, so they're good, or they're not. But, anyway, let me just back up a little bit. Main thing is, Red Sox are out. They lost to the Houston Astros 4-2. And even if you told me that at the beginning of the series, the series will go 6 games and the Red Sox will lose, I'd say, okay, that's probably about right. But it's the way they did it. And as usual with this team, it was kind of the way they did everything. Yeah, they won 92 games, but how did they do it? They won 65 games in the first half of the season, then won another 32 for the rest of the way, which doesn't really sound that impressive because it isn't. When they absolutely had to have a game, like when they had to beat the Yankees at Fenway Park toward the end of the season, they got swept. When they had to beat the Orioles or the Tigers to stay in contention, they lost. When they had to, you know what I'm saying? Every time it looked like they were going to turn a corner and go on a little winning streak, they would blow it. And then they would come back, to their credit. They would come back and they'd win a few, and then we'd all go, oh, they're so great. It's but they didn't have to do that. It's like that kid in school that, turns in a pretty good, paper, but, they wait till the absolute last minute to do it instead of just, doing it when it was due. And, you go, okay, yeah, they got a B+, but it's why didn't they just, try to begin with? That's kind of the Red Sox. I feel like they had, a B+ season, but they could have had an A, and they basically played, a D for most of the season at the end. So it's overall, how do I evaluate it? Yeah, I guess good. But, do I see this team coming back next year and winning another 90-something games and going to the, potentially the ALCS of the World Series? Maybe. That's the other thing with the Red Sox is the last 10 years have been so inconsistent. They've won 2 World Series in the last 10 years. They've, been to the playoffs a few times. They've also been in last place a few times. Now, I know a lot of people said, 2020 they were awful, and yeah, they were. It was also a 60-game season. I think they were 25 and 35. I mean, you can find a lot of teams that go 25 and 35 for part of a season and then go on a run to get back in the race. So I don't really take that much stock in that. Yeah, okay, if you do the math, they're on pace to win 75 games or whatever. But again, it was a really short season in 2020. A lot of weird stuff happened. Some teams were good that weren't supposed to be, and vice versa. So this whole narrative that oh, nobody thought the Red Sox would be good, I didn't think that. I really didn't think anything. Because the Red Sox, like I said, one year they win 100 games, one year they win 80 games, one year they win 50 games. They're just so all over the place. So that's what was so maddening, and that's why you might remember I gave up around the trade deadline. Because it was okay, they're having one of those years where they're on pace to win 97, 98 games. Forget 92. They were on pace to win about 98 games. I don't care what people say. They were on pace to win enough games to put them up with Tampa Bay. I'm not saying they win the division, but it would have been a lot more competitive than it was. They were on pace for that. And then the trade deadline comes, and the Yankees get Rizzo, the Dodgers get Scherzer. Basically, all the teams that want to win get players to help them win. The Red Sox, yeah, they got Schwarber, and I'll admit Schwarber ended up being pretty good down the stretch. But I feel like that was even just a move of oh, he's available, no one's really going for him, so we'll just kind of throw it out there and see what happens. And that was a lot of the Red Sox at the end of the season, and that's why I can't really be that sad that they lost, and I can't really be that excited that they got as far as they did, because it just felt like dumb luck. It felt like, okay, we're going to try as much as we can, and, we might win, we might not. There was never this sense of oh, let's go for the World Series, let's go for it all. Of course they wanted to win. Of course, you're on a team, you want to win. But the trade deadline just really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think it left a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of players because they were, terrible after that. After August 1st, after the trade deadline, they got nobody. I think they lost, 5 or 6 in a row. They, couldn't beat the Orioles and the Tigers. They got swept by the Blue Jays, who ended up being a pretty good team, too. But I'm not saying there weren't other good teams and that the Red Sox should have beaten everybody, but, They should have been better than that. Like, I was really enjoying the Red Sox run up through, like, July. Like, I enjoyed the way they would come back to win. I liked the whole laundry cart thing. They seemed to be having fun. The hitting was good. The pitching was good. And then it just all fell apart. Matt Barnes just sucked. I don't know why. That had nothing to do with the trade deadline. He just sucked. He was a reliable closer, which is something they really desperately need going forward because the bullpen, as it is just kind of shaky. But at least if you have a ninth inning guy, you have something. They don't even have that. They have Adam Ottavino, who's a hit or miss, and you know the names. Ryan Brazier could be good or not. Tanner Houck I actually really like. I know he had a couple bad games in the last few, but he's really good. They asked a lot of him in his first season. He even started a few games for them, had a perfect game, or a 5-inning perfect game toward the end of the season. He came through. Chris Sale, you know, I kind of like give him a mulligan. At the same time, I'm kind of like, eh. You know, I know he had a good last start. I think it was like 4 or 5 innings that he went against the Astros. They ended up losing that game, but it wasn't really his fault. Like, he came through to a degree, and also I know the injury's part of it, so that's why I don't, like, really hammer him. But, I mean, he does at some point need to pitch like Chris Sale, which I know is kind of an obvious, but, like, you know, on a team that doesn't have a lot of amazing starting pitchers, you need that one at least. You need that Chris Sale, you know, 7 innings, 1 run type performance that you never really saw. And again, I think that's because of the injury. At least I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping he comes back next year and he just is dominant. Although 2019 he wasn't injured and he just wasn't that great. So I don't know. I really don't know. Just like with the Red Sox themselves, I don't know what I'm going to get. That's why I can't get that excited about it. You know, some years, some teams, you know, like the Celtics, and this is also a bad example because the Celtics haven't won anything, but the Celtics would have a season where they go to the Eastern Conference Finals and they lose, and I'm like, okay, well, it sucks they lost, but at least I know they'll be back. And they were back. The Celtics won. The Celtics went to like 3 or 4 Eastern Conference Finals in the past few years. They lost all of them, but like you kind of knew what you had with the Celtics. You knew that they were going to be decent coming back. I don't know that about the Red Sox. The Red Sox could bring back 90% of the same players, maybe add 1 or 2, and they could be a below 500 team, or they can win 100 games. It's literally that just ridiculous with them. So, you know, the 2021 Red Sox are done. You know, did I like them? Not really, in case you couldn't tell. I just feel like they underachieved, which I know is weird to say. It's this whole thing of like, you know, are you really that frustrated? But then, yeah, I kind of am. You know, it's not like, I know they're not going to win the World Series every year. It's really weird. This is the first Red Sox team that made it this far in the playoffs that I really didn't care about. Like, there's been other teams that I think I cared more about that didn't go that far. And then there have been some teams that won the World Series. Well, obviously, I really like those teams. But, like, this team I just didn't really care about. Like, you know, if they made the World Series, maybe I would have gotten a little more into it. But, you know, and I know they got the 14 runs in Game 2 or whatever it was. They got a bunch of runs in the series against the Astros, and then they just stopped hitting. I can't even blame the pitching on it because the last 2 games they put up, like, 3 runs combined? I mean, again, it is what it is. You know, they'll come back next year, you know, probably win 89 to 92 games, something like that, maybe less, maybe more. And we'll go from there. Right now it's Braves and Astros in the World Series. I don't really give a crap. I guess I'll root for the Braves. But, yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So I'd like to know your thoughts on the 2021 Red Sox. Do you consider the season a success? I actually don't. I know that's going to be really controversial. I think it was a good season. I think it could have been better. And again, it's not because, you know, they didn't win the World Series, so it's a failure. No, it's just that they themselves played well enough to win, and, you know, they just didn't want it enough at the end. That's my opinion. But look forward to seeing what you guys think. There'll be more Red Sox coverage, but not till next year. So, yeah, there you go.